Executive Director, the meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. My name is Alex Dashpour. I'm the Executive Director of the Planning and Building Agency. Today I'll be conducting 3 public hearings to consider 3 group home special use permit application as part of an administrative review process set out by the San Municipal Code. Before we begin with the first application, I want to clarify the purposes of these meetings. The purpose of these hearings is to receive information from staff and the public regarding compliance or non-compliance with applicable provisions of the Santa Ana Municipal Code's group home ordinance. I'll be considering all evidence presented today and will be issuing a decision in writing on Monday, June 15th, 2026. On that date, the decision will be mailed to the applicant, posted on the city's website by 5:30 p.m. You'll be able to find the decision on the planning division webpage. But before we get started formally, we'll go over a few preliminary matters.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Crosby, Senior Assistant City Attorney for the City of Santa Ana. Just a quick clarification for the public that this is a public hearing. It is held pursuant to the code. It is not a meeting of the legislative body. It was structured in that manner, and that was a necessity in order to use certain technology, mainly recording. But it is not a meeting under the Public Ground Act. It's the director will conduct the meeting as a public hearing or 3 public hearings and observe all rules for the holding of public hearings, which include allowing members of the public to speak, both that are in person as well as those that are on Zoom. Thank you.
Members of the public may participate in this public hearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the recording secretary to describe how the public can access and participate in this public hearing.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.santa-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom. Enter the meeting ID number 845275225859. When the item you wish to comment on is being discussed, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. Once called upon, remember to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 845275225859. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press 9 to let us know that you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you may press 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the recording secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. I will alert you when your time is up.
So I'll now review the process for the public testimony portion of the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a brief verbal presentation regarding applicants' compliance with the applicable provisions of the Santa Ana Municipal Code and answer any questions I may have. The applicant will be then given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will then be each given the opportunity to comment to 3 minutes each. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public. And the matter will return to me for any additional questions and close the public hearing. To those members of the public wishing to participate, please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address. This is voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal, and your knowledge should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. So with that then, let's dive into the agenda formally. So we should begin with a pledge of allegiance. All right, with your right hand over your heart, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with the first item then. Patient home specialty permit number 2025-01. And staff will make a brief presentation.
Thank you and good morning. Please have a good report. Today's first item is the application for group home special use permit for 2025-01, located at 3217 South College Street, Greenwood. It is a request to allow the operation of a sober living group home with 6 or fewer occupants for state courts. Staff's recommendation is to issue group home special use permit number 2025-01 for the operation of a sober living group home with 6 or fewer occupants. The site is a general plan land use designation of Logan City Residential and a zoning district of R1 single family residence. The surrounding land uses are single family residences to the north, south, and west, as well as the MacArthur Fundamental Intermediate School to the east. The subject site is developed as a 1,802 square foot, 2-story single family residence with 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The application has been reviewed and staff has verified that the application material are consistent with the requirements of the Santa Ana Municipal Code as found in Exhibit 7, which is a summary of all of the code requirements, and also by utilizing the materials found as noted on page 4 of the staff report. Furthermore, the owner operator has also signed an affidavit in the group home application indicating that they do and will comply with the group home ordinance regulations. As of the writing of this report, there were no other permitted group home facility in the city subject to the city's group home ordinance. The ordinance requires sober living homes to be more than 650 feet away from other sober living homes and alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facilities. The proposed facility is more than 650 feet away from the other facilities that are also being proposed at today's administration. This proposed facility is approximately 1,660 feet away from an existing alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facility that is licensed by the state and measured from property line to property. The Santa Ana Police Department also conducted an in-house background check, and there were no findings or criminal records located for the act. A request for a live scan service was also submitted to the State Department of Justice. Based on the available information, the applicant is in compliance with the Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, which includes the circumstances under which the special use permit shall be denied. Project notifications were posted, published, and mailed in accordance with the Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, duly noticing the hearings to owners of record and occupants within 500 feet of the proposed home. As of 8:30 a.m. this morning, staff have received 14 emails and 1 phone call in opposition of the proposed group home special use permit. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, the project is statutorily exempt from further review pursuant to Section 15268 Ministerial Projects, which applies to administrative actions by a public agency and is also categorically exempt under Section 15301 Class 1 existing facility. The project involves the use of a sober living group home at an existing facility and does not include any expansion of the existing footprint of the building. In summary, based on verification that the application materials are compliant with the group home ordinance, staff's recommendation is to issue group home special use permit number 2025-01 for the operation of a sober living group home with 6 or fewer occupants. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the property owner and the applicants are available to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. I do have a list of questions that I'd like to go over. Some might be for staff, and some might be for the applicant or property owner. But I'll just dive into the first one. If Byron, you or senior staff could answer, what was the framework in which this ordinance was developed? And give some background as to any regulations we might have had beforehand, and then when was this ordinance adopted and what was it based on?
Yes, thank you, Director Commissioner. This updates.
Thank you, Executive Director, for this report. I'm happy to help with that question. The framework for adopting this group home ordinance is based on history with group homes throughout the state of California. Group homes are a use that is now considered a residential facility, a residential home by the state of California. there's case law that's been considered since the adoption or prior to the adoption of our ordinance. In the city of Costa Mesa, the city has established distance requirements between group homes. And that was tested through the courts, and the courts found that it is possible for cities, it is viable for cities to establish distance requirements between group homes and solar links specifically. Does anyone know if that answers your question?
It does, and as a follow-up, the separation criteria. Could cities adopt or modify the separation criteria on a per application basis or in an ordinance, could the separation criteria be modified?
Separation criteria could be modified through. Actually, I'm not, I need to look to.
So the ordinance adopted clear separation criteria, and the criteria that are in the ordinance cannot be modified on a case by case basis. This is a development standard that will be applicable to all applications moving forward, pursuant to the ordinance that the city adopted.
So as a follow-up, if an applicant were to come in, let's say in between facilities and not meet the 650 foot requirement of the code, could they apply for a variance or exception?
They could not apply for a variance or exception.
And that's because the code doesn't set that up, correct?
The code does not allow for an exception.
Thanks. Are there any other known licensed or unlicensed facilities near this application site?
Yes, thank you for the question, Victor. So there are a couple of suspected group homes located in close proximity to the proposed group home. However, those are outside for this particular proposed location at 3217 South Olive. The suspected group homes are outside of a 650 foot buffer. And there are licensed alcoholism or drug abuse recovery treatment facilities. However, that is also more than 650 for this particular branch.
And to clarify, if I may, the alcoholism and drug treatment and recovery facility that I remember to is a facility that's licensed by the state of California. We do not have the ability to regulate them, and they're allowed to exist within the city without any city permits.
Thanks for that point. So if a facility, in other words, is licensed by the state of California and one of its departments that handles these types of facilities, they're not subject to go forward.
Correct.
Do the criteria that are adopted, or as far as we know, based on the sort of court cases that resulted in the Costa Mesa ordinance being upheld. Are there criteria in our ordinance or any other sort of cities that have adopted similar ordinances that take into account proximity to what are called sensitive land, like schools, bars, religious institutions, or are the separation criteria from location for facility?
To the best of my knowledge, they're simply from location to location. They do not take into consideration any substantive.
So for example, if a proposed facility or across the street from a school, the ordinances that follow the suit from Costa Mesa model do not contain criteria that let's say.
Yes, however, there is a requirement within our regulations that address Maggie's law. And so there is a manual provision with regard to location between the proposed homes and subject uses.
Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is that other laws already on course to address some facts that arise due to proximity to some things.
Correct.
Yep. So in looking at this application, I noticed that staff included a checklist that is based largely on code for compliance with the code standards. And I have a couple of questions I'd like to go through that on. Exhibit 7. So I'd like staff to just walk through these items, what steps we're taking to actually verify these application materials, for example. Property owner approval, so is there a form, which, for example, an application is presented to the property owner to make sure that the property owner is aware that an application is.
Yes, thank you, Director Professional. Yes, we can go down the list of exhibit 7, page 20, group home special use permit for compliance application. The first item, property owner approval. The property owner has provided a written and signed approval on the group home special use permit application to authorize the operation of the group home. The property owner is also present at this meeting today. Moving down the list to distancing from other group homes. Staff utilized aerial view from softwares including Lightbox Vision to ensure that these proposed sites are at least 650 feet away from the other 2 proposed group homes that are being permitted. It's also important to note, again, that these are the first 3 applications for subdivision group homes under review. And that this proposed group home is also more than 650 feet away from the nearest existing alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facility that's licensed by the city. Moving on to the house manager item. This item was checked off and acknowledged on the application eligibility form by the applicants. Occupants in EDU and JADU. This item was acknowledged on the application eligibility form by the applicants. It has also been verified by staff. Utilization of peer review and reviewing site plan for and permit history, noting that there is no ADU or JADU on the property. Moving on to total occupants, staff has verified that the provided floor plan shows a maximum of 6 beds. That does not include the bed for the house manager. ADU, JADU use. It has been verified by staff through a review of the floor plan. And again, that there is no ADU or JADU on the property. The garage and driveway spaces and parking. Staff has reviewed the floor plan to ensure there's sufficient spaces in the garage for parking. And that this requirement is also noted in the applicant's occupant intake packet in the schools. The applicant has also provided staff with photos showing the interior of the garage with space made available for parking. Moving on to the item for peer supervision. This item was checked off on the eligibility form by the applicant on the special use permits. Integral group homes. This item was checked off and acknowledged on the application eligibility form by the applicants. We do want to note, as defined in Santa Ana Municipal Code section 41-83.2, integral group homes are defined as 2 or more group homes that are under the control and management of the same owner, operator, management company or licensee, and are integrated components of one operation. So if there are 2 group homes that have the same operator but have separate operations, they are not considered integral group homes. Because this proposed group home has separate operations independent of any other proposed group home facilities, they do not fall under the definition of integral facilities by the city's definition. Moving on to full code compliance. Staff has reviewed the site plan, floor plan, permit history, and also worked with the code enforcement division to ensure that there are no code enforcement issues with this. Moving on to the involuntary termination of residency items, all listed here, including at least 48 hours before eviction or involuntary termination of residency that the operator shall 1, notify the occupant's emergency contact of record, 2, contact the OC Healthcare Agency, OC Links referral line, and or another city designated entity to identify available services. 3, notify the city's homeless services division that the occupant is no longer resident and identify available services. 4, provide the occupant with information from the paragraphs above and any other relevant service details prior to release on a city form containing the signing law. And 5, however, if an occupant's behavior causes immediate termination under the tools in the group home special use permit, the operator must complete these steps as soon as possible. These are all located in the involuntary termination form. And this language is all identified in there, and staff has verified that this language meets the code. In the meantime, Director Position, did you have any questions about any of the items we've gone through so far?
I'll follow up with questions, so thank you. I'm mostly interested in rather than just reading off of this, like what was the source, how did you verify these?
Right, so all of these items, involuntary termination form, the application form, staff reviewed each aspect of the application form, reviewing the site plan and floor plan for compliance, reviewing the applicant's occupancy packet and house views, to ensure that all these legal requirements were present in all of their materials. And we also used our, again, the area review to ensure that distancing requirements, as well as there was an affidavit that was signed by the applicant on the group home special use permit application under penalty of perjury, that they would be in compliance with all of the requirements of the group home special use including home units. So all of these taken into effect, in summary, this application has met all the code requirements. And that was how staff was able to verify general stuff.
So going back to some of the points that you raised, so what is Lightbox Vision? Is that software that applicants use to produce an exhibit that we sort of accept as a city view, or is it software that staff have access to that they verify whether they share?
Yes, thank you for the question for that. Sure. Lightbox Vision is the software that staff uses to verify the information that the applicant has given, and is also used to ensure code compliance with the distancing requirement. So it's a software that has aerial view that allows staff to measure from property line to property line, and to ensure compliance.
Okay, and then you shared a definition of what an integral group home is, so, and then you said this is not, so what would be some attributes of an integral group home situation?
Sure, so thank you for the question again. An integral group home or an integral facility would be facilities that have services located in one location and services that are not present in that one location, also present in the second. So in effect, if there was a facility or an operation that required that had services in one location and not present. And also, sorry, if it was present in one location and not present in another, and those services were provided to the occupants. Essentially making these two different locations part of the same operation, then those would be considered integral. What makes this site not considered an integral facility is that there are separate independent living provisions all provided in the same site. So there's provisions for independent living provisions, including a kitchen, bathroom, and sanitation facilities all in one site. So the occupants of this one site do not have to go to another site to receive services or to be able to live independent. I apologize if there was any confusion.
No, it's helpful clarification. I saw you reaching for your line.
Yes, I was just gonna kind of put that in a little package. So essentially, integral facilities would be ones in which residents from one facility would travel to another facility owned and operated by the same entity to receive additional services. Staff verifying the floor plan, site plan, and through the understanding affidavit signed by the applicant, that there would be no services provided at any of the three facilities, and that they would each operate independently.
Do these, does this application for this facility, is there a website or anything, like sort of online description, say Facebook page, anything, I'm just curious.
Not to Travis knowledge, no.
And search was done.
Okay.
Okay. And so on the following pages, there's policies like involuntary termination form that discuss the eviction processes. And similar, policies for record keeping, pickups, drop offs, all that stuff. So when an applicant submits materials to the city, it's a moment in time that that's being submitted. What happens in any case, whether it's this or any other application type that has a requirement for policies or procedures, if following a decision on an application, the policies and procedures are modified without staff's for review or consideration.
Thank you for the question, your position. So my understanding of the question was if they presented material at application intake and later on these factors were no longer true. Is that the question?
And for example, if we were considering an application before the planning commission for a liquor license.
Right.
And there's staff training procedures on how not to overserve a patron. And that is satisfactory to staff, but then after approval, the applicant goes and removes those provisions from the staff training manual. How would that interact with the code?
Right, so thank you for the question again. So there are revocation measures, so if in the case this application does get issued a group home special use permit based on the information provided. And again, on the application materials with the applicant's signature on the penalty of perjury. If those materials are no longer false, or no longer true and are found to be materially false. There are steps identified in San Municipal Code section 4124(2)(b) that allow the revocation of the group home special use permit.
Thank you. So moving on to the way that the ordinance is set up with the separation criteria. We received a lot of public comment about proximity and the fact that it's three were the same geographic area. And so obviously that's something that's very important to our community and the city as well. Can you explain how the separation criteria affect sort of concept of like first in line, first in time with the application? Like if I considering an application today, and then there's knowledge of a home that comes up that there's another facility, let's say 3 properties over within 150 feet. Can you just walk us through how that might look?
Yes, thank you so much for the questions and for the question. So let's say that these 3 applications go through and all 3 are issued permits. And let's say there are other group homes within this vicinity, within 650 feet of any of these that are issued. Let's say they come in and want to apply. First, we would take a look at the 650-foot buffer that is now existing. And if they are within that 650-foot range, they would not have the ability to be allowed to get issued a special use permit, and therefore there's no legal direction for them to become permitted. And so if they are operating within that 650-foot buffer that may exist, then they are open to being code enforced, and at that time there is no legal pathway for them to become permitted.
Is there any other section of the code, or are there any other sections of the code where we have standards requiring separation in certain land use types?
In regards to group homes specifically,
Or any of those, let's say.
any other uses? Yes, so for example, there's massage establishments uses that there are distancing requirements. Needs to be I believe 500 feet away from residential. And at least 1,000 feet away from other massage establishment uses. There's also the smoke shop ordinance. So those also dictate a particular square footage away from other sensitive land uses. And off the top of my head, those are what come up. I know we also have the local food truck ordinance that kind of dictates how far they can be from eating establishments.
So yes, the answer is yes. there
Yes.
is, thank you. Then, was this application for permit number 1? Was this an existing facility or is this a brand new proposed facility?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. This facility, according to the property owner, has been in operation for 1 to 5 years. According to our code enforcement violation history, there have been no reports of this any violations in relation to it being a group home. So as far as the city records, there have been no concerns on that piece specifically.
So as part of the application process, did staff review, any calls for service with the police department, review, with code enforcement staff, any sort of violation histories, calls for complaints, anything?
Yes, so we work closely with code enforcement staff and police department to verify if there were any calls for service from the police department, and there were none. We also verified the code enforcement history. During this 5-year period, there were no violations in regards to it being a group home.
Thanks, and then there was discussion in the staff report about a live scan being submitted. Can you walk us through, that process of how a live scan works, who we rely on as, staff to sort of, help us get information and, how that's used at all in any sort of verification of what we have presenting materials?
I'm happy to help with that question, as I was intimately involved with setting up the lifespan. Like our cannabis ordinance, the city requires a lifespan for group home special use permits as well. And the process is to provide a form to the applicants with information populated that indicates who would be responsible for reviewing the lifespan once it's produced by the state. It's the responsibility of the applicant to populate the rest of the form with their information and to submit to the state for review. Then the applicant provides us evidence that they have in fact submitted to the state. Once the state reviews, it comes back to the city, the San Diego Police Department has staff that reviews the result of the lifespan and then shares that information with the staff.
So for this application, a live scan was not,
Oh, that's good.
and no information can provide that would hinder the ability to continue considering the application.
We receive no such information. If we did in the future, we would be able to go through the revocation process.
I have 2 more questions. What would, many of the public comments that came in today sort of cited that there are other suspected facilities within this neighborhood. And I'm looking at a map that staff has prepared, showing some other suspected group home locations. So what is the city's process for receiving a sort of report of a suspected facility and addressing that separately? I know you touched on it earlier, but I think it's important because, we I wouldn't say inadvertently, but as part of the process, by having a public hearing, it invited the community to share information about their neighborhood that maybe was not available to staff. So I want to be clear about what the staff do with that information as part of this application.
Right, thank you so much again for your question about the group report. So again, if these applications go through and it establishes a 650-foot buffer around each site, and there are these suspected group homes within that buffer, that essentially means these sober living group home, suspected sober living group homes, they do not have a pathway to permit issuance for them. And essentially, if we receive information, we forward it to the code enforcement division, and code enforcement can take enforcement actions against these suspected group homes that do not have permits and do not have a pathway to become permitted. And there will they will be open to code enforcement actions. And so essentially, the short answer is they wouldn't be able to be permitted, and what that could entail is they would no longer be in the city once code enforcement was able to finish that.
And I asked to that, clearly staff has worked intimately together to analyze all of these applications. And one of the things that staff has done is to prepare a map based on information received from the public through the public comment process. But to back up before going through that, as staff developed the group home ordinance, we worked with code enforcement to develop a list of suspected facilities based on calls that they or the police department had received and investigated. We have mapped all of those facilities that for which we have information, And we have also taken the information received from the public during this public comment period and added those to the map. So we can see the distances estimated between each of those facilities of existing advertised and proposed. And I can verify that there are a few of the group homes that we heard about from the public that are within 650 feet of the proposed group homes. Specifically, we learned about 1118 West Columbine Avenue. That's approximately 600, I'm sorry. My map is too small and I don't have glasses on. Sure, 450 feet from the 1210 West Prairie Avenue property. From the proposed 3429 South Ramona Drive property, there is an existing facility at 902 West Elgin Avenue. However, for this specific one that is proposed under consideration at this portion of the hearing, 3217 South Follow Street does not have any existing facilities within 650 feet.
So, I understand this is very practical and very important to understand the framework of the court cases and state law. So I just want to be very clear when we say there's no pathway to harmony, could they become licensed by the state?
Should the suspected group homes pursue licensing by the state, as you mentioned previously, then it will no longer be. It will no longer be subject to our group home ordinance, and they will be up to enforcement by the state at that point.
So based on state laws and court cases in place as of today. If they got licensed by the state would not be able to pursue any enforcement action against them. But for the reason of being too close to any of the permitted facilities, is that correct?
That's correct, because they would be enforced by the state.
And that's not a city ordinance.
That is not
a state law, that's court case.
Yes, that's right.
And just a quick note, just as a reminder, the scope of this hearing is ministerial action. And what we're looking at is compliance or non-compliance with the requirements of the code, and we're getting to other territory. This is the first hearing that we had, so there are lots of questions that could come up. But we would just stick to the requirements of the code, whether they're met or not met. The city obviously will comply with any and all state laws that are applicable to the group home and to those that are served by the group home. So I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. And that can be very complicated for other aspects to this. That is really beyond the scope of what we actually discussing today. So I just want to bring it back to the requirements of the code. We can continue to go through those requirements and then move on to the applicant's statement and then to the public who wants to speak.
Thanks, I appreciate the legal counsel sort of input on that. This is the first batch of applications that's being reviewed, and these are important questions that came up during the public comments that we received. So there's a framework to that, but I definitely understand the sort of statement that's been given. So I have one more question as promised earlier, and that is, you touched on it earlier, revocation process. So I know you said earlier, if we found something to have changed, it would be revocation, but is there some sort of like process that happens before a permit vote?
Yes, correct. Thank you for the question. There is an appeal period of 10 days after the decision has been made by the executive director of planning and building. And there can be a hearing, the appeal will be appealed to the planning commission, as long as an appeal is filed within 10 days of the decision by the executive director. So there's if someone applies for an appeal, that can be taken up to the planning commission for review at that point, and that can be an action that can be taken for revocation.
If I may add to that, in section 412402E, there are administrative approvals for group home special use permits that are discussed and establishes, it establishes requirements under which circumstances a group home special use permit shall be denied. In which case we would not need to go through code compliance enforcement. We would only need to verify whether or not we've received information. And that indicates we've received false or misleading information. Or if there are any circumstances that are met, in which case it shall be denied. If there are other aspects of the code separate from those circumstances, then we would go through code enforcement, give opportunities to rectify those problems, and then pursue a resolution proceeding, should that be necessary.
Right, with that, I'd like to open the public testimony portion of. So would the applicant like to speak on that?
Hello, everyone. Should I sit here?
Yes, we may.
Okay, good. So, press the button again. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Suzanne. I'm actually the property owner of the 3 locations that we're discussing today. I'm also representing the applicant, as I've done so with other facilities of this nature as a sort of land use consultant. The applicant is here as well and is available to speak on his own behalf. So what I'd like to say today is thank you folks so much for considering our application today. We're seeking approval for a special use permit, as you know, and I want to say first that we wholeheartedly support ordinance NS 3084 as it really functions as a mechanism to separate good operators from bad. In fact, I was at the council meeting where the vote was done, and I thought it was totally supported the ordinance personally. And I want to talk a little bit about the organizational state of the course. Yeah, he has a mission, and the mission is that he believes in the legacy of imprint on the community he thrives in. An imprint so strong that it creates a movement for others to follow, so they can leave their legacy, thus creating a community that perpetually makes others' lives better and more full. And I say that because Brian runs a facility where camaraderie among staff and peers creates an environment of empathy and removes judgment. This facility specifically, like the other ones we're going to talk about, specifically serves a certain population, and that is the population of young men 18 to 26 that are there to transition successfully into adulthood. It's a diverse group, each with their own background and journey. They're all committed to sobriety, education, and personal growth. The admission criteria is that all clients have to have completed a treatment program. And all clients must be in college or working or volunteering. All clients are involved in continuing therapy or support groups. And Brian can operate since 2015 with no issues with the city. No calls for drug use, no calls for intoxication, no calls for overdose, no calls of incidents, and no calls from the neighbors for any reason. So basically 11 years of operating with no issues. Brian Greenwald is happy to share his contact information with anyone in the community to call him directly with any questions or concerns. And I welcome any questions you folks need.
Thank you, and thanks for providing the information you shared. I do have a couple of just clarifying questions on one of the materials that you submitted. It is the intake packet. One of them mentions that there's a curfew that requires individuals to be home by 12 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, so 12 noon.
No, that's probably a district that will be 12 a.m.
Okay, so just FYI, that's stated a couple of sections throughout the time. As we move forward, and then secondly, are there any policies? I know it says smoking is allowed in the designated outside areas only, there's no smoking in front of that house. So where are the designated areas for this property?
So in the front of the property, there's a concrete area that's situated directly in the middle, equidistant from the property lines of the other properties. So the back property line does not abut any neighbors, the back property line abuts the street. So there's the neighbor on the left side and neighbor on the left side, and the smoking area will be right in the middle, about as far away as you can get from each one of those. I do want to mention that it is really, for this particular age group, it is rare for these guys to smoke cigarettes. Mostly they vape or use non-smoke tobacco products.
Thank you. I was just thinking about some of the common, nuisance complaints that city officials receive routinely for any single family resident. Whether it's a facility or just on home, sometimes the calls that staff receive are often about music, loitering, that stem from being outside and smoking. Or social activity for some. And so, as part of any sort of policy procedure, should this application move forward, it's strongly recommended that that be updated to sort of also address sort of the time and other sort of consideration for neighbors. That may again be the result of what happens when individuals partake in smoking tobacco products, the sort of noise, conversation, late nights, music, all that. Again, whether it's single family residence or facility, these are sometimes the calls that are received at the city. My neighbor smoking, what can the city do about it? It's not necessarily a city ordinance per se, but it's sometimes about who the calls.
Of course, and if I can address that, we informally don't allow music in the backyard because we don't want to have a bad relationship with our neighbors. But we're more than happy to put that in our own policies as well.
Thank you. Okay, I have no further questions at this time for you, so thank you for your testimony. And then from there, we're gonna move back to the recording secretary. Have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this matter?
Executive Director, we did receive yours in the form of public testimony for this item before the 8 AM deadline, which has been given to the Executive Director and posted online. If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it in to the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please sign 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds.
Who's the secretary? Your secretary. Okay.
And recording secretary, we could also, if there's multiple speakers for each item, if we can call them at 3 at a time so that they know, or at least call their names 3 at a time so that they're prepared.
Executive Director, we do have 8 speakers in house. We will start off with Patricia Navarro, Ruben Munoz, and Selena Still. We will each have 3 minutes to speak. I will alert you once the 3 minutes have passed.
Good morning, I'm actually a neighbor of the 3217 South Olive Street. I'm kind of a little confused, this is my first meeting. I have lived in my home for about 9 years. It is a cul-de-sac, so I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac. It says on the notice you received or the notice in the posting that it's a new application. But I'm kind of confused, because about 1.5 years ago to 2, I was traveling a lot. And one of the times that I was home, another one of my neighbors said, hey, did you know that this home was turned into sober living home? But then I hear today that it's been in operation for 5 years. Was that something that don't understand, it's a new applicant, it's a reapplication, what is it, so that's a concern. At the time, when my neighbor notified me, I just figured I missed some kind of notice. So I'm not understanding how to begin an application when it's been in operation. What I have noticed on my end, it is like a smaller cul-de-sac, I would say it's about maybe 14 homes. That section of my cul-de-sac does not have permanent parking. So it's basically occupied, the parking's occupied by their owner, or the renters, or whoever they may be. But right outside that, it's permit parking. What I have noticed is a lot more traffic. We do walk our dogs, there's kids walking, riding their bikes. What I have noticed now that I'm aware of it is that, they block the right of way, the sidewalks. And they really don't care, you know, we're the ones that have to go out of their way to walk around with cars. Sometimes even if they're sitting in the car, and I'm talking also about the 3701 South Olive, which is an operation. Now it makes a lot more sense to me, because they could care less that I'm walking and they just stay right there right in front of me, block my way. The 3217 South Olive, what I have noticed is a lot more trash. Not in front of it, but across the street where the other street intersects, and I'm not even sure about the name, because I'm so close minded. And I just live in my home, there would be a lot more liquor bottles there. And it was kind of weird how it all started happening, us being there for like a longer term. The 3217 South Olive, there's have been instances where the trash cans are out there for like several days. I normally try to contact code enforcement when there's something really outstanding about it. I have heard from other of my neighbors that there have been incidents, but because it's not on my end of the staff, I'm not aware of it when it's happening. I mean, I've never even heard of the helicopter being there at 3 AM. And knocking on doors. I don't know if it's relevant to this address, but there's all these issues that now seem like, okay, now it makes a lot more sense. This is a neighborhood, family oriented neighborhood. I don't feel that we're being heard as residents, because we're making these businesses now homes for profit. Like, aren't there establishment and guides and rules for this? And now I'm hearing that even if you deny it, the state can approve it, so I'm confused with the overall process here.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro, with you, Minister.
Thank you.
While the next speaker comes, thank you. These are intended to be comments to the staff and to myself as executive director. However, if you have questions about what's going on in your neighborhood or code enforcement, we do have city officials here that if you stay through the course of the meeting, can always help answer questions at the end. So just wanted to remind the audience that.
Next speaker is Ruben Munoz.
Is that Jose R. Munoz?
Just Ruben Munoz, but it doesn't have the village.
He said that's you, but that's you.
Okay, we can go on to the next speaker, we can come back once he comes. Next speaker would be Selena Sill.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm resident of the CUSA with the last speaker spoke, Patricia. And I'm concerned about I have special son. He's mental capacity is like a preschool or less. And he likes to be outside a lot. And he rides his bike and everything. He's an outdoor guy. I always with him too, but at the beginning, like a year and a half, I noticed more young people living in that house, which I was kind of concerned, and I was kind of how can I say that? I feel bad for them because I always, they walk in the neighborhood and with a really sad face, and I always say hello or hi, and they don't respond to me. And I was kind of, oh, everybody needs a second chance, and I was thinking, oh, that's nice, but they have to rehab and everything in the neighborhood. But after that, after all the issues with I heard from the other neighbors and I saw people, oh, young people walking with no shoes, no shirts and yelling and saying bad words behind on Olive Street and in front, behind my house on Flower Street and Olive Street. It's just a kind of worries me a lot and I'm kind of afraid going outside more with my son, especially. So it's just like I said, everybody needs a second chance, but at this point, it's like I'm concerning more about young families which they raising their kids, and it's just thinking it's not a good environment for them. But my heart works for all the people who needs to be in rehab. But that's the thing I wanted to say, but see, I'm so worried for my son, I'm so worried for all the young people just moved to a neighborhood. And it's just hopefully they can find a better place for their establishment or their rehab. Because, yeah, how do you say, I'm not worried and I was kind of others, but I'm sorry, my English is kind of, I'm speaking from my heart. Okay, thank you.
You did great, thank you, Mr. The next three speakers would be R. Munoz, Teresa Munoz, and Stephen.
Let's wait.
Good morning. Well, like my neighbor Selena says, I think I will deserve a second chance. However, I think most of the people that live in that neighborhood is concerned about the change. I seen people walking around with shirtless, or you can see from distance that they're not coherent. And that is on all the street. As we have Flower Street in our back, in the back of our yards, I've seen a lot of people walking up and down, but they never go into our neighborhood. However, in the last couple of years, I've seen all these changes. And I always tell my wife that, well, I guess unfortunately, the homeless population is being increasing, and now they're expanding their territory. But now we know about all these houses or homes that are out there for profit, and I guess they're holding about 6, 7 people, 5, 6, 7 people each. And so if you do the math, well, we're talking about 30 to 40 people. And if 15% of these people, or 20 of them, are not being supervised as they are supposed to be, they are going to be going this. And so I oppose clearly to it. I am concerned. I have 2 daughters, I have my grandson. My wife and I, walk around the neighborhood around 9 every night. And, sometimes I cannot go with her. Well, now it's the thing that, I'm not gonna be as, as, as happy as before, you know, okay, you're gonna go take a walk, I'll go do this while you come back. It is not the same. So that's my problem. And
Was that the reason, Mark?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you for your time.
thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Ms. Teresa Munoz. Nombre Teresa Muñoz, vivo en el 3317 South Olive Street. Working at Teresa Muñoz, and I reside at 3217 South Olive Street. Y me opongo definitivamente a esta sombra caso de la zona ahí, porque yo camino todas las noches por ahí. Y hace como unos 6 meses, enfrente de la casa, en la 17, un joven me metió a saltar, como a las 8 de la noche, y nunca cantar. I definitely oppose because we have home with that location. 6 months ago, I was taking a walk at night, and somebody from 3277 was so. Y el domingo 4 de mayo, un joven sin zapatos, gritando y diciendo malas palabras, pasó ahí por la frente de la casa, no se fue por la flower y luego regresó gritando que quería golpear a alguien. And on Sunday, May 24th, there was a young person who was barefoot who was using broken language and walking down the street and saying that he was going to hit someone. Y hace como año y medio, mi marido, mis 2 hijas y mi nieto, dejé en mi carro de la calle, y entré a la casa cuando miré un joven que venía a desesperar con una mochila y no se podía ni parar. Yo pienso que estaba intoxicado con tanto que parecía, no se podía ni parar así, y se caía y se paraba. Yo le tocaba a mi esposo que me abriera, la puerta no me la abría, y diciéndome que por la tarde me abrió la puerta del marido, porque estaba jugando conmigo, pero luego ya todo llegó, se cayó ahí enfrente. Entonces ya miró a mi marido lo que estaba pasando, mis hijas salieron y le preguntaron que si necesitaba ayuda, y no nos decía nada, nomás se fue hasta la flauta y se cayó en medio de la flauta. Entonces, so a year and a half ago, I was with my husband, my children, 2 grandkids, and the young person from 3217 showed up with a backpack, was intoxicated, and she couldn't open the door. But she was so scared she couldn't open the door to her house. And so they noticed, she noticed he was falling practically on the street. And so they saw him look for his flower, and me
my children and my husband asked him if he needed help. And he said no. Luego se fue a la calle, estaba tirado en la calle. Y luego tuvimos que parar el tráfico. Mi hija se quedó asustada, estacionó, que el tráfico no van a matar. Y mi marido le habló a la ambulancia. Hizo la ambulancia y lo llevó. So the ambulance came and took this person, but what happened was he started to walk towards Flower that he was on the ground. And we had to go direct traffic or else he would have been hit or killed. And then, y luego hace como 15 días iba yo a trabajar a las 9 de la mañana y venía un joven blanco y luego lo desconocí porque ahí en su mayoría somos entre familia y gente que no vive ahí. Yo lo noté, un joven blanco, sin camisa, sin zapatos, grite. And then 15 days, 15 days ago, around 9 p.m., going to work, I saw a young white man. He was not known from the area. There's a lot of families that are there, but he was without shoes and without a shirt. And he was screaming, so he was screaming a lot of like profanity. He was screaming the F word.
Gracias, señora Muñoz, por su comentario. Ya son 6 minutos.
Muchas gracias.
Just for the record, you were pausing whenever the interpretation was taking place, and 3 minutes were allocated.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that we did not block. We didn't have questions. We are ODH plan.
This follows standard protocol at other state needs, we provide translation or we just have to end with a commentary. Instead of being discussed. That's all.
Next speaker is Stephen C.
My name is Steve Kern. I attended one of the state of course facilities in each of us of this facility that's being mentioned today. But I just wanted to sit and talk about my experience through the facility. I think what Brian is doing is life changing. Today I sit with 8 years of sobriety. I own a home in Bedford County. I'm married, and things were a lot different when I first went into a treatment facility. So as one of his requirements, you have to go through a responsible treatment program first. So I did 4 months at a traditional rehab and then graduated to his sober living. As part of the requirements, you have to go to school, work, or do community service. I chose to go to school. I graduated from Cal State Channel Islands and I have a business degree. Later, I opened my own business, and now I can honestly say I never thought that this would be my life. And the person that I went through 8 years ago. So for somebody to have that kind of impact on someone's life, I drove 2.5 hours this morning down here just to help an individual out. That's the kind of impact that these sober living homes have to certain individuals. There's a lot of negativity that's involved with drugs and alcohol addiction, and without these types of facilities and special use permits that are required, you just get more homeless on the street. That was how my life was going. So I think that's all I got. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen C. The next 3 speakers will be Lynn, Stephen M., and Ruben Luce.
And I am one of the residents. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Lynn. Can I have you get closer to the mic? There you go. Yes, okay. I am one of the residents, that is close to the two houses scheduled to be a silver home also. And living there maybe about 15 years, the track was not very nice track. All the homeowners there, they are pulling together and taking care of their homes. And the resident there really good care of their homes. What I'm starting to see or notice lately is a lot of strange individuals walking around, disregard everybody, personal space, trash, dog, food. What my concern is right now, the area there is a lot of children, young children, new babies, new moms that live in that resident. And then outside of that particular resident tract, you have, down on Bristol, you have a corn store, you have a hotel, you have smoke shop within that close vicinity of that tract. I know we talk a lot about codes, but we're in this little bubble that's surrounded by everything else. And you have fundamental school, you have high school, and you have middle school that are surrounding within that vicinity of that tract. So for those homes, I totally support and I love your success story, which is great. But to have a facility like that, not in the residential homes where young children are riding their bikes. I walk late at night when I'm off work, 8 or 9 o'clock. And then there's so many children and young families that are riding their bikes. And that's where our great concern. And in that track, where Bristol Plaza, there's that train track, there's a lot of hopelessness. And then a lot of drugs, folks that will come through there. And then these are young kids that are riding their bikes and not feeling safe when they were once were safe. So now we have to go together, 3 or 4 people together just to walk down in our track. My house is close to Park Drive. And that particular entrance is something we have Columbine that's going to go up next. And Curry, what you mentioned earlier, maybe a street over, that is very close vicinity and 2 social living homes right there. So our concern is the family within the track, and also the issue with parking as well, and the disrespect and behavior. That's this disregard within the neighborhood there. Thank you, and for your public comment, your team is there.
Next speaker is Stephen M.
Council members of committee, Stephen Musley.
I'm sorry, Stephen, can I have you take a seat and seat into the mic? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stephen Musley. I live on Park Drive. Stephen that lived there for 15 years, served my country, and I've worked drug interdiction between Puerto Rico and Cuba. So I actually flew missions to stop drugs. So I do not support anything to do with that. I never got into it. I stayed away from it for a whole life, and I hope people would understand that my view have to say how all this is operating. Currently, on Columbine, there are individuals that come in and out, and their dogs walk down the street, and the next door neighbor, the dog defecates on the sidewalk. He doesn't pick it up. He's mad. He leaves it on the sidewalk. Those 2 individuals came from that home that's on Columbine that you guys mentioned. That's over there and be a test piece for what's to come. Okay. Basically, you have an open air drug market, train traffic, Southern California Edison substation. People come there to buy drugs. The people that walk from Columbine are walking down there and going back to the sober living. You think they're not interested in the homeless encampments that are there at different periods that are open air drug markets currently? And it's been like that for many years. The Rite Aid, I've spoken to the community there, the people that worked at Rite Aid that got shut down. The people would come in there, steal the alcohol, and they basically had to move, they had to leave. People were forced out of their homes. People were forced out of their businesses because it's open air drugs that facilitates, that's within 650 feet of proposed new sober living. This is a problem. And it's not gonna get better by bringing more customers into the neighborhood that could be potential customers. We all know that people work on their addictions, okay, I understand that, okay? But what I don't understand is facilitating those, giving them the opportunity to access it while they're in that facility. I have currently found needles in front of my house, I found like bagging with some kind of powdered substance. I've called police, I've let them know, I've called code enforcement on people that dogs that were going down there, that death came on the lawn. And I've also found marijuana dispensary bottles on my lawn, which I also reported to the police, and this has been in the last 5 years. This is a real problem, I bring customers in and giving them that, not really customers, that it's not a good place when we're trying to battle drug use and homelessness to bring a treatment facility in there where people can get off the straight and narrow, and it's not a good idea. I fully oppose this, and it also brings our neighborhood down.
Thank you, Stephen. Next speaker is Ruben Munoz. I don't think Ruben must be back. The next speaker is Max.
Yeah, I've been working for Brian Greenwell for past a year and a half, and I really admire the work he does. Earlier Sean talked about how, you know, like there's some people on music in the backyard, making things really loud at night, and that's kind of overall like how Brian like he works really consistently with me, and rules are constantly changing where he's trying to like hold people there to higher and higher standards, and I am feel fully supportive. And but last night we were on the phone with someone's their mom and Greenwald just trying to get him to play less video games, and so that's a kind of lately what's been going on. And I also have him in school and trying to get bachelor's in data science and spend really cool to like see some people there with me in that same pursuit. And I want to do everything I can to help make this better for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Max. Executive Director, we no longer have any more public comments and public speakers.
All right, thank you, would the applicant like any concluding remarks? And for the applicant, you know, some of the items that I heard from public speakers sent from parking impacts, alcohol use, loitering, shirtlessness, pet policies, allusions to on-site treatment, drug storage, pharmacy, and possibly drugs and pharmaceutical. So those are some of the elements that came up.
Do I still need to press the button? I'm sorry? Oh, good, okay. I want to say a few words and then I'm going to introduce Brian Greenwald. He is the applicant. I've been involved in a number of different hearings with a number of different cities, and there is something that seems to come up a lot, and I want to make sure. You know, we all understand that there is a growing homeless population in the community. But those homeless folks, they don't have anything to do with this location or this facility. I know there's shirtless, shoeless folks that walk around. I imagine those are homeless folks. Those are not members of this facility. So the guys that live in this house, they all have jobs, they all go to school. They're presentable, clean cut folks. I know there's a couple of people that spoke here today. I understand that one lady came up and, I guess didn't realize that this had been in existence for a while, and that's kind of how we position ourselves in the community. We don't want to be different than any other single family residence that's in the neighborhood. We want to just fit in and be part of the community, and that's how we operate. That's how we operate. As far as drug use, all that sort of thing, we drug test once a week. We know that there's a lot of drug activity in the neighborhood. We know that that's been increasing, homeless population is increasing, but that does not have anything to do with this. I do want to introduce Brian. I know he wants to say a few words about what he does. So if you'd like to come up for him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Greenwald. Thank you for letting me share and speak. I'm outpatient case manager for about 13.5 years now at an outpatient program. I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't go to a sober living in Colorado myself. Being sober and being in recovery has given me an amazing life, and being able to give back and open a facility like this. And like Max and Steven shared, it's, you know, there's plenty of others that could speak that have changed their lives around me. It's called Stay the Course for a reason. Dad was when I was getting sober, me and my father were reconciling our relationship. At about 6 months, you know, we would start talking, trying to reconcile the relationship, heal that from my own addiction and my own destruction of life. And every time he hang up the phone, he'd say, good thoughts and then stay the course. And he ended up having his own mental health issues, and he took his own life. I was about 2.5 years sober. Then I stayed sober through that. And then about a month later, I was looking for a job in California and found an outpatient clinic to work at, and decided to open something in his state, his name, and try and carry on my father's legacy. So this is not just some, I've heard some people say, this is not for profit, but I mean, I think it makes the profit. It doesn't really tell you how. You know, insurance, taxes, rent, and rent. It's a very expensive kind of business to run, and it's more of labor of love. And since I've started being a case manager to what I've seen now as, you know, recovery, substance use, mental health, it's evolving. And the guy veteran is right. The dispensaries are providing very strong marijuana and producing clients that we've housed in their community with the end of psychosis, and it's been a very difficult thing to treat. And you know, they either have to be working, volunteering in school, and a part of an outpatient program, and successfully have graduated from a residential treatment facility. So they are monitored. There's a living house manager. They're drug tested twice at the house, and they're also drug tested at the facility that they go to. Therapy, group therapy, case management, psychiatric services. they are very closely monitored. I am aware of the issue with the parking, and the parking is very limited there. We do our best to maintain ordinance and get parking permits for when they need to park past the stop sign of the cul-de-sac. My, you know, treatment and sober living has been my life's work, and like I was saying, how mental health is evolving, I've decided to take a step back from case management, and I'm in school for my bachelor's in science in nursing, getting my RN license in April 2027. And then I'm going to a school for nurse practitioner and mental health, so I can help kind of bridge the gap and help prescribe or under prescribe clients, because it's the mental health issue in this county and the nation is getting worse. And so I'm investing in my own self to make things better, not just as the input, but at the county as a whole. That I think it desperately needs, and I think, yeah, the open air market, like you said, like those people need help too. And you know, I'm running volunteering at ICU and NICU and at AER in Norwalk and mostly global medical at NICU, and trying to further my education to make things better. So I'm here because this is my life's work. I've been doing this since 2015. These houses that I'm at now are probably the 12th or the 13th house I moved into because in the cities that I was at, there was no permitting policy, and then before there was so many naysayers that I got kicked out. I got moved into a house in Costa Mesa. I was there for about 5 days. I got a sick on the door saying I have to leave within 3 days. That was going to be physically removed. I didn't think that was fair. All the clients there were working, school, jobs. I had a guy at Olive who was in school, and he works for an agency that works with autistic children. He goes and goes to their houses and he helps them develop as much as they can. So these guys are actually doing good jobs. Can't speak to people wearing no shoes or no shirt. We do have a dog at Olive. It's a great dog, he's well taken care of. The owner does pick up after himself, and at the other house, there is 2 dogs there, and they are certified emotional support dogs, so they're certified. And that helps with the good guys in the house. Any of you walk in there and plop yourself on the couch, one of the dogs will be right on your lap, hanging out. And that does a lot for our clients. It helps stabilize them, it helps calm, it helps you develop their own self-soothing practices. So, like I said, this is not, it's for profit, sure, but it's not rolling up in here in a Mercedes or anything in here in a Hyundai. So I'm also working full-time as a nurse, so I'm doing literally everything in my life to make the community better, and make the mental health community better. The only way that I'm able to do that is with the money I make from there to support myself and continue on the mission that I have, is to be a nurse practitioner and be able to prescribe the right medication as cannabis use psychosis is only to get worse. And we need facilities like mine to house clients with those issues. Otherwise, they're gonna have nowhere to go.
you can push around. There's a lot of people saying. They don't want to share, it's understandable, you know, I get it, if. And we're easily associated with anything that goes wrong. Sometimes it's heartbreaking to do that. Try not to take it personal. Just, you know, like I said, it's like a 6 months sober and started looking treatment, trying to help people. I'll have 16 years sober in December. God willing. This is everything to me. I'm not someone who just makes these houses and then goes away and like hands on, literally like Max said, we were on the phone with mom. He's bipolar, he's has issues, we're trying to stabilize him. I was talking to him, trying to help him get paid by the hour to so whatever it's worth. That's pretty much all I got.
Thank you, Brian.
So, thank you. The public testimony portion of the hearing is now closed.
I just have a quick remark. So my role here is generally limited to ensure that we have the public hearing rules observed, which generally means due process. I mean, particularly for the applicant, so that's my role, but I just wanted to reiterate for the benefit of the public, those who are here and those that might be listening. That there are a number of laws that apply to group homes serving disabled persons. To name a few, Fair Housing Act, for example, California Fair Employment and Housing Act. And there is case law, which was alluded to earlier, Ohio House. There are also some very generally applicable laws. There's people have our zoning code. There are general municipal code requirements, so that benefit of community concerns. There's penal code provisions that we do with criminal activity. So there's a number of laws that are at play all at the same time. They exist all at the same time. Which is why I mentioned this is a very complex area of law. But I only mention that because I want to kind of wrap that up. But I wanted to just remind the public and everyone as to what we are doing here today. I'm just going to quote from our municipal code, our group homes ordinance, which provides, and this is in 41-2402 E. A group home special use permit shall be issued by the planning and building agency executive director or designee as a ministerial matter if the applicant is in compliance or have agreed to comply with this section of our code. And it also provides the director shall hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving information regarding compliance in the applicable provisions of the section. So just to remind everyone that that's the purpose of this hearing again, is to receive the information. And hold it a public hearing. So that's it. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a few final questions for staff based on what we've heard. And then, in interest of keeping the way looking for simple, answers, unless I ask the follow-up question. Then after that, I usually decide and call for a 5-minute recess. Stretch will not that. I'd like to. So, yes or no, is treatment allowed in a group home facility?
Treatment is not allowed at group homes.
Yes or no, the policies that were submitted, do they tolerate alcohol or drug consumption?
They do not tolerate alcohol.
Thank you. All right, I want to thank everyone who came out, provided their testimony. I received information and no additional questions for this application. The public hearing is now concluded. As I said earlier, I'll consider the evidence that was provided in the application packet, the evidence that was shared by members of our community, the information and evidence that was provided by the applicant and operator, and render the decision on Monday, June 15th, 2026. So with that, I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess. So let's come back. I'll start again at exactly 11:10 for item number 2.
So this is a big.
The existing associates, that's the something.
Maybe for kids, whether it's so they feel better when you hear with me.
And I received a.
Oh, really?
So now. But we will be. See. What's good is.
And then the six, was kind of arbitrary.
No,
It's based on
But I know YouTube still continues to run.
cities and. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
No, yeah. But if you ever change something, this friend is just stuff so much. I know we don't say just, you know, it's.
They're so fascinating, it's not.
Yeah. It's like.
Run out for.
Sorry, I'm like.
No, I'm actually, I'm a property manager.
See, that was-
So they own their own-
No, they're very,
Yeah.
these are nice, yeah.
I gotta admit, like, if this was something.
They're just,
I didn't
you know,
know,
they
like,
understand. They just wanna make sure.
totally get the need for it. But it
Enforcement and management.
makes you feel some kind of way when that's in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
We did get a public comment right now come in, saying that, the last few speakers,
Yeah.
they're like mumbling, you can hear them really low. So I told Ricardo we're gonna make a comment about, hey, try to get closer and try to speak more clearly.
Oh, they're making the football, I love them.
Yeah, it should be like.
Fannies.
Sometimes they don't have to really have it in that standing. But they still leave it like on the right side or the left side.
Church. It's just.
The first
Her
one.
name was Dan, she was.
Yeah, if you can, it would be good. I'll hear it.
And she.
Is that something?
I know, I have to base it on.
Like, look at the embassy.
So now we have.
I keep forgetting.
Family.
Something, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna, I just don't want to.
So, right, yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, let me go get it. Oh. Here.
Yeah.
If you want to say it, we'll say it.
I don't know. I need to change it.
I thought you had.
We say no enough? No, 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 and then really cold, it takes like. Thanks, that's a style, yeah. And the town was afterwards, so the building. I still have to jack it.
These are the
No,
Yeah, it is chilly, yes.
It won't be around.
I was just saying, it feels like it's clean in our. No, in the government building, it's like cleaner.
There.
Very nice little.
Yeah.
Alright, the second application being considered for administrative review and ministerial approval today is group home special use permit number 2025-2. Last that, we have the application.
Thank you, Executive Director. The second item is an application for group home special use permit number 2025-02, located at 3429 South Ramona Drive within Northfield. It is a request to allow the operation of a self-living group home with 6 or fewer occupants for state of home. Staff's recommendation is to issue group home special use permit number 2025-02 for the operation of a self-living group home with 6 or fewer occupants. The site of the general plan land use designation of low density residential in a zoning district of R1 single family residence. The suburban land uses are single family residences to the north, south, east, and west. The subject site is developed as a 2,343 square foot, 2-story single family residence with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The application has been reviewed and staff has verified that the application material are consistent with the requirements of the Santa Ana Municipal Code as found in Exhibit 7 and by utilizing the materials found as noted on page 4 of the set. As of the writing of this report, there are no other permitted group home facilities in the city, subject to the city's group home ordinance. The proposed facility is more than 650 feet away from the other facilities that are also being proposed at today's administrative hearing. This proposed facility is also approximately 750 feet away from the nearest existing alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facility licensed by the state measured for property line. The Santa Ana Police Department conducted an in-house background check, and there were no findings or criminal record located. A request for live scan service was also submitted to the State Department of Justice. Based on the available information, the applicant is in compliance with Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, which includes circumstances under which the special use permit shall be denied. Project notifications were posted, published, and mailed in accordance with Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, duly noticing the hearing to owners of record and occupants within 500 feet of the proposed group home. As of 8 AM this morning, staff has received 14 emails and 1 phone call in opposition of the proposed group home special use permit. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and its guidelines, the project is statutorily exempt from further review pursuant to section 15268 ministerial projects, which applies to administrative action by a public agency, and categorically exempt under section 15301 class 1 existing facilities. The project involves the use of a sub-living group home at an existing facility and does not include any expansion of the existing footprint of the building. In summary, based on verification of the application materials are compliant with the group home ordinance, Staff's recommendation is to issue group home special use permit number 2025-02 for the operation of several living group homes which include occupancy. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the property owner and applicants are available at any time.
Thank you. Okay, so similar to the last application, I'll take the lead in asking some specific questions about the compliance verification checklist. So, the difference from other group homes, our first application was on Olive Street, now this is on Ramona Drive, so. What is the distance between the Olive Street and the Ramona Drive application?
Yes, thank you for the question. The approximate distance is approximately 1,100 feet over.
And that was verified using the city of St. House, GIS, correct?
Correct, that was our in-house system right off the.
The staff report notes that the facility is near a licensed facility. Is that at location on Alpine Avenue?
The licensed facility is located at 609 Juniper Avenue. And they are called the retreat at South Coast. They are more than 750 feet away, so they are compliant with the distance requirement. The one on Alpine Avenue is a suspected group home. So the one on Alpine is unproven.
I believe it's the opposite, or lower.
Okay, thank you. So the licensed facility. Just to clarify, the staff know where it's located.
Yes, I have a database, so I'm looking.
Thank you. Okay, I'll come back to that question. I appreciate it. And then, is there an ADU on the property?
There is no ADU on the property.
And then is this part of an integral group home, or does this application indicate or give any sort of indicator that there is reason to believe it could be part of an integral facility?
It is not part of an integral facility, and we have not received any information through our verification of the materials. And doing our own pre-test research with the White House Vision, there is no indication that this is an integral facility.
And then is this an existing operation that has come forward with an application?
Yes, the property owner has mentioned this is an existing location more than 5 years ago.
And as part of the application review, staff looked into any enforcement or police department calls for service.
Yes, so we looked into calls for service from the police department. We looked at code enforcement violation history, and there have been reported.
You said none.
No, zero.
Thanks. Okay.
Or
Okay.
I have looked at the license list from the state of medical care services and verified that both the Alton property and Juniper property are on their list of licensed rights.
Well, see, he was mentioning the Alpine Avenue. That's.
Thank you. So there's an alternate one, that I can see as well, so thank you. But I appreciate nonetheless both sets of information that corroborates it, what I'm looking at. So regarding the operations, for obstacles manual, again, it's what I suspect is typo for 12 PM versus 12 AM. Was there any review of this and conversation with the applicant prior to today's meeting about this and any other elements, that could be typos?
Yes, so we let the applicant know prior to this meeting that there was a typo in that, that just to be aware that, to, update it to reflect the meeting of 12 AM tonight instead of 12 PM. That was previously.
Thank you. And then as a applicant for a group home special use permit, is streaming permitted on site?
Treatment is not permitted on site.
All right, thank you. I'll open the public testimony portion of the meeting. So would the applicant like to speak on this matter?
Executive Director, just to kind of include a quick reminder to the applicants, members of the public, if they're wishing to speak today, if you can hold the mic close and speak clearly into the mic, we have members of the administration, state YouTube and some. They would benefit from that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, everyone. I will keep my comments brief this time. So this again is a facility and location that is operated by Brian Greenwald. We've been doing this for many years in various locations. At this particular location at 5 years, I will tell you, my experience as a property owner has been amazing with him and his outfit. No issues, no problems. I would much rather have him as the tenant than just a single family for a number of reasons, and one of which is I've been involved in the recovery community for many, many years myself. I'm actually also a lot of these guys talk about sobriety, and I'm actually a sober man myself, with 27 years of recovery. And one of the reasons I wanted to change the use of my properties from single, to use these properties as sober living homes was my own recovery journey is that I went and lived at a sober living house for a year. 27 years ago, and it 100% changed my life and turned me into the person that I am now. I have had a long career in land use consulting. I've been an four-term elected official in the city of Los Angeles. Because of my experience living in a sober living home, I'm a great dad, a relationship, my kids, my wife, my dog. I mean, I can't even tell you the impact having been involved in this has made on my life. And I mean, frankly, I know there's bad operators out there, and I'm glad to be part of this process because this process really is going to weed out the bad operators. I know there's been a couple of questions about alcohol use and treatment. Just to clarify, no services are provided on site. A lot of the guys that are in the house do go to programs or see private therapists or counselors and receive services that way, but no services on site. It's housing, it's support, it's kindness, and it's a nice place to have a fellowship and brother. As far as alcohol use, no alcohol beverages or intoxicants of any type are provided, just to be very clear. So I know, listen, if you ask me, the legalization of the cannabis products in this state has been a disaster. And it's legal, but we don't allow the use of any cannabis products or anything like that in any of these houses. We don't allow the storage of cannabis products, and we don't allow alcohol to enter the home in any way, shape, or form. Again, no calls for 5 years per location, no calls to the police, no calls for drugs, intoxication, incidents, no calls of any type. And I want to again pass it over to Brian Greenwald, and I'm sure he wants to say a few brief words as well.
Yeah, once again, thank you for letting me be here, thank you for letting me apply. I appreciate you guys' time, I know it's very valuable and you guys do good work, and I hope that this gets approved. Like Sean said, my life would not be where it is today without being sober. I'm also on the HOA, I'm the vice president of the HOA at my community. So I know what it's like to be on your guys' side of the table and having to make tough decisions and listen to owners and members of the community. And so again, just want to emphasize, my desire to help any community that I'm a part of. I also started a basketball team for some of the clients, and we played Wednesday nights at the Costa Mesa Rec Center, and that team has been going on since 2019.
vote happened and then we restarted in 2022. We've had many games, the Pacers, the C team, the Benchwarmers, they were now called Pacers. It's provided a pretty good outlet for our guys, and then we also developed a softball team that plays in Arlington Park. And they play when season is in, and those are Friday nights to help them have something to do on a Friday night as you know, the guys, you know, you're out there using and doing not well things, that's the time when, you know, bad thoughts come, so we try to provide non-therapeutic services, but you know, opportunities for them to kind of have outlets to, you know, express themselves and, you know, get in shape and help them also be a part of the community. The goal is for them to reintegrate into their own independent living situation, so it's important for them to be living in a community, in a neighborhood, and be experiencing life in the real world as much as possibly can, while still monitored by a house manager myself. Well, again, no therapeutic services are happening, and to be exposed to just life on the outside, and then the next step would be, you know, their own living situation. We, you know, they get together and get their own place, and by the time that happens, you know, they have a job and they're in school, and you know, I guess you're doing very well. And they're all a part of the community, living apartments and around the area. So, again, I know these are tough decisions to make, and I know it's hard for the neighbors, I empathize with them. Just am grateful to be here and grateful that, you know, my sobriety is honestly taking me to this point that I get to sit in front of City Hall and fight for what I believe in. That has given me the courage to do that. 16 years ago, I would have been terrified of people. And no confidence, but with working with government, sobriety, treatment, therapy, it's given me the confidence and giving me the desire to help others. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel like I have to do. Again, being in nursing school, trying to further my education to make it better. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on. According to Secretary, have we received any written communication or member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
Executive Director, we did receive emails in the form of public comments for this item before the 8 AM deadline, which has been given to the Executive Director and posted online. If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it in to the Secretary. A friendly reminder, anyone that's here in the public, if you would like to comment on this item and you previously commented on item 1, you will still need to fill out a new request to speak form and turn it in for this new item. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Executive Director, we have 1 speaker in-house and 1 in Zoom. We will start off with the speaker in-house, Ms. Daniela Sanchez.
Yes. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Daniela Sanchez.
Sanchez, sorry if I can have you get closer to the mic. Thank you.
My name's Daniela Sanchez, and my husband and I live up in Hudson from the solar living home. We're We're here today to respectfully invite us for this application to you tonight. We have 2 young children, ages 6 and 12. Your daughter attends New Park Fundamental, which was got awarded as a distinguished school. And their grandparents, my in-laws live, immediately the community next to this proposed property. So with summertime coming up, my kids will run over or ride their scooters or bikes. I just want to have peace of mind that they're gonna be okay. It's gonna be safe. One thing that I did notice with something particular is that there's a lot of foot traffic. So there's always 3 people coming in and out. And I've been to, I've heard the their success stories, which is amazing, and that's great, and it fills my heart. But how about, there's some cases where that doesn't happen, if there's a slip up and the kids happen to be there, what impact is it gonna have on them? We have really deep roots to this neighborhood too. My parents live on Noble Street. My brother-in-law lives directly across the street. And that home, the grandparents' home is my husband and my brother-in-law's childhood home. So my in-laws have been there for 45, 50 years, and my parents, I grew up in that neighborhood as well. We've been there for life. With my parents. Since I was 5 years old. And when we, our children watch their grandparents' house regularly, and one of the reasons we chose this neighborhood was because it's safe, quiet, family oriented, and where children could, move freely between their homes and family members from and neighbors' homes as well. We recognize the importance of recovery programs and the support the people they serve. We do not believe this particular location is appropriate for a group home. As parents, we cannot ignore the uncertainty that comes with placing these facilities to the home where children visit almost every day. It changes with them security, peace of mind that families like ours rely on. And in this day and age, we have so much to worry about, whether it's like bullying at school or just, all the peer pressure and everything. Our home is supposed to be our safe space where I have peace of mind, and with this, the certainty of as a mother is so just overwhelming. And then beyond our concerns, many of our neighbors are worried about the long-term impact on the character of the neighborhood, increased traffic, parking issues, resident turnover, and the lack of meaningful consideration given to families who have invested their lives in this community. This is not just a property, it's a neighborhood, it's where our children's day grandparents spend time with their children, and our families have built lasting relationships. We respectfully ask that you preserve the residential character and stability of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Daniela. You're being this help. Thank you. Executive Director, our next speaker is in Zoom. Ms. Jane Hill, we are ready for you.
First of all, I think that the sober living homes are giving an excellent outlet for those who are addicted to drugs and alcohol. But I also think that you've heard from the people in our neighborhood of how we feel about it. And I hope that the council listens to our concerns also. And one of the things is, I don't know, Brian, how many sober living homes do you have in your HOA? Can you hear me?
Ms. Hill?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes to speak in reference to item number 2 on the agenda, but there will be an opportunity for the applicant to address any questions.
Okay. One of my other questions is on the intake form on number 11. It says that the number of occupants subject to sex offender registration requirements. Penal Code Section 290 does not and shall not exceed the limit set forth in the Penal Code section 3003.5 and does not violate the distance provisions. I tried to Google that to see really what that meant. And so I didn't know if sex offenders are or criminals are allowed in the homes. That's the second question I had. And again, I think that I've been in this neighborhood for 50 years and our house has been broken into twice, and we do see other crime. What you're doing again is a fantastic service, but I just think it might benefit to do it to look at other alternative areas to put these homes. Because again, I know it's very much needed. And appreciate what you're doing. Also, I appreciate your sobriety. And I have family members who have. But in our home, when we moved in here, we have families in this area. We have senior citizens, we have young kids. And as much as we don't know what the residents might or might not do, we do know from some history that there are problems. And you also want to give your clients the best opportunity to reach where you are. And so some of the outer lying areas, the unhoused and the drug dealing may not be good for them either. So again, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Jada. Do we have any more public speakers?
Well, I have a small detail I want to bring to the council's attention. I have a small detail I want to bring to the council's attention.
Before I have you begin, this is Mr. Stephen.
Stephen Busley, so sorry. One thing I wanted to bring to all your attention and everyone's attention, the definition of a single family detached home. What is that? Basically what it's called, a single family detached home. Why are we not dividing that? It's a very good point. I think everybody else step back and look at the actual definition of a home in the tract. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stephen. Executive Director, we do not have any more public speakers.
Thank you. Would the applicant like any concluding remarks?
Yes, I just want to thank you folks for your consideration. I want to know if you folks have any questions for us.
Thank you, yes. So I'll ask questions hopefully with yes or no, or just read answers.
Well, I'll keep it very, very brief.
So similarly, I looked at the site plan for this property, I did the first one, I did the next one, and noticed there's a large concrete area here that's amenitized with furniture. And just really encourage the applicant to this application to move forward, to think about the smoking discussion that took place there in the first one. The second one is, does the policy packet or the house rules include any discussion of visitors to the property?
Yes, only approved visitors are allowed at the facility.
Thank you. And how are visitors here or so?
So there's a couple of things. So a parent, well, not all parents, a supportive parent that is approved, a sponsor. So the guys all in the house have all participated in 12-step recovery, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with 12-step recovery, but what it is it's a support group, and in the support group you have a person that you kind of it's like an accountability person that you answer to, and AA sponsors are allowed to come to the house to visit. Other than that, there's no visitors. They can go visit if they want a friend over. They can go visit at their friend's house. Simple as that. And the reason for that is we don't want to have a lot of foot traffic in the neighborhood, and we're very mindful as to the impression that we can.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was not a yes or no.
And then, for the visitors that are approved again in your own words, are they screened at all for anything that they may be bringing or, entering into?
We do check we do check bags, if bags are to be brought into the house, but generally, these are people that are known to us. So it wouldn't be something that's not known to the house manager and have that communication with us in the past.
Thank you, and then for the sake of, the public comment that was made earlier, can you clarify the FEMA code reference that's made in your, intake packet?
Yes, that was a requirement, that was a requirement from the ordinance for us to have that language. We actually, during the process, I pointed out that we actually don't accept any kind of sex offenders. But this specific language was called for in the ordinance.
Thank you. And then lastly, similar, I think you mentioned it, also similar type, I was just looking for, again, 12 p.m. following and anything else should that be an event over. Thank you. I have no further questions. Great, thank you. So we did hear a public comment about single family residence. I'd like staff to just again help provide context from a code perspective. When the ordinance was adopted, it set forth any definitions of things like single family residence, single house unit, etc. And how does the law, sort of treat a proposed group home in today's application versus.
I have before me the definition section of the zoning code. And starting with one family dwelling, I'm happy to respond to the question we have. One family dwelling is considered a residential building containing one or more habitable rooms with only one kitchen. Designed for occupancy by one independent household unit with common access to and common use of all living kitchen and bathroom areas. We also asked about a single housekeeping unit. And I'll turn to that momentarily. A single housekeeping unit is defined as a resident of the. The single housekeeping unit means that residents of the dwelling unit have established ties and familiarity and interact with each other. And whose use of the dwelling unit satisfies each of the following criteria. We have a set of 7 criteria that they must meet. If you wish, I can go through each of those criteria, but essentially, the members of the unit have to have a tie with one another, they have to all be named on the lease. And they have a set of characteristics of that house that have to be met. In terms of the group home ordinance, a group home is not considered a single housekeeping unit. And by law, a group home must be treated as a single residence. So in the case of our code, we need to treat it the same as we would.
Thank you. In the policy, and I suppose this would be on all 3 applications. One of the first sentences states that any sort of drinking, drug, or medication abuse during residency of the home will be cause for immediate termination of residency. And in the city's ordinance, it talks about a minimum 48 hours sort of eviction period. That a resident can't simply be, let's say, in an extreme situation, discovered to be drinking alcohol, that be put out on the street. This policy sort of may send to that interpretation, but the code says 40 hours. So how does staff reconcile with the policy that we have provided or split ordinance? while staff is looking answer, the reason I'm asking the question is that we heard comments this morning about individuals that may be experiencing homelessness or other forms of lack of permanent shelter in the neighborhood. So obviously, when the ordinance was adopted, I believe it included that sort of 48-hour period to provide that notification. City's homeless services coordinator, the Orange County, County of Orange, local departments, all that. So again, if the application were advanced, there needs to be that sort of just, everything needs to be code set. The policy and the ordinance can't run out of each other, so the evidence.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, you're referring to the 48 hours before eviction involuntary termination of residence.
Right.
So on page 40, and this is also on exhibit 6. Exhibit 5. Exhibit 4, the involuntary termination form, all that language is identified on that involuntary termination form. Staff has verified that that language matches directly with what's here on the group home ordinance. And so that language there talks about at least 48 hours before eviction or involuntary termination of residency. The applicant / operator shall follow these instructions as listed.
And so again, thank you. If this or any application were to advance, making sure that all these documents and the ordinance are usually consistent language are really important so that there's no ambiguity for staff in case it's an important matter. The operators that they have clarity is sort of what is expected of that from the city. And obviously for our residents as well, neighbors that they want to know sort of what is the city's ordinance environment for this time. Thank you for that. All right, I have received all the information I need for this one. Thank you, members of the community who came out and spoke and provided your input. And the public hearing now concluded for this item. So as with number 1, I'll make the determination by June. With that, I'm ready to move on to number 3. So this is the third and final application this morning being considered for administrative review and ministerial approval day. It's group home specialty determined number 5-3. And I'll turn it over back to staff.
Thank you, Executive Director. Today's third item is an application for group home special use permit number 2025-03, located at 1210 West Carey Avenue within North Park. It is a request to allow the operation of a sober living group home with 6 or fewer occupants or sober living home. Staff's recommendation is to issue group home special use permit number 2025-03 for the operation of a sober living group home with 6 or fewer occupants. The site has a general plan land use designation of low density residential and a zoning district of R4, suburban farm. These surrounding land uses are single family residences to the north and east, condominium complex to the south, and a commercial shopping center to the west. The subject site is developed as a 1,854 square foot, 1-story single family residence with 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The application has been reviewed and staff has verified that the application material are consistent with the requirements of the Santa Ana Municipal Code as found in Exhibit 7, which is summary of all the code requirements, and by utilizing the materials found as noted on page 407. As of the writing of this report, there are no other permitted group home facilities in the city subject to the city's group home ordinance. The ordinance requires sober living homes to be more than 650 feet away from other sober living homes, as well as from alcoholism or drug abuse recovery treatment facilities. The proposed facility is more than 650 feet away from the other facilities that are also being proposed at today's initial hearing. Furthermore, this proposed facility is approximately 761 feet away from the nearest alcoholism or drug abuse recovery or treatment facility that is licensed by the state and is from property line problems. The Santa Ana Police Department conducted an in-house background check, and there were no findings of criminal records open. A request for live scan service was also submitted to the State Department of Justice, and based on the available information, the applicant is in compliance with Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, which includes circumstances under which the special use permit shall be denied. Project notifications were posted, published, and mailed in accordance with the Municipal Code Section 41-2402E, duly noticing the hearing to owners of record and occupants within 500 feet of the proposed group home. As of 8 AM this morning, staff has received 14 emails and 1 phone call in opposition of the proposed group home special use permit. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, the project is statutorily exempt from further review pursuant to section 15268 of the SEWR projects, which applies to administrative action by a public agency and categorically exempt under section 15301 class 1 existing facilities. The project involves the use of a sober living group home at an existing facility and does not include any expansion of the existing footprint of the building. In summary, based on verification that the application materials are compliant with the group home ordinance, staff's recommendation is to issue a group home special use permit number 2025-03 to the operation of a sober living group home with 6 occupants. And that concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the property owner and the applicant are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, separation criteria. So how does this one again relate to any sort of licensed facilities that we know of? What's the other two that we've heard of?
Yes, thank you. So the nearest licensed facility is at 1217 West Alton Avenue. As previously mentioned, it is approximately 761 feet north of the proposed site. That is outside of the 650-foot distance requirement. There is a suspected group home on Columbine that was previously mentioned. That is approximately 450 feet away. As previously mentioned, if this application goes through and is issued a permit, then there is no legal pathway for the one on Columbine to be permitted, and they will be subject to code enforcement actions. And then this location is also more than 2,000 square feet from the old location and approximately 1,550 feet, or excuse me, more than 1,200 square feet from the remote location. And those are the names.
Thank you. So just to clarify, if this permit were in advance, it's established in the 650-foot radius around it, just like the others, which of these affected ones that you highlighted. We are applying for, right?
That is
And then the licensed facilities, so around other states.
the license by the state facility is not subject to our city's ordinance.
Okay, thank you. And then just to confirm, staff contacted code enforcement, police department, and the live scan, and none of them turned up any information that would result in ineligibility under the state's ordinance.
That is correct.
Thank you. And then taking it a step further, did PD or code enforcement have any calls for about this property?
There were no calls for complaints for Santa Ana Police Department. There were no code violations from code.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier in your presentation that unlike the other two this morning, this one is far forward, so that's apartment zoning. So would there be the ability for this building to under a permit if it were approved to be able to carve itself up into multiple apartments because of the zoning?
No, so it is still subject to our density requirements and has a low density residential land use designations, so that's 7 dwelling units per acre. Based on the size of the lot, they are not able to develop more than what's already existing on the single family.
Other than any accessory dwelling unit laws or anything?
Yes, see, other than the accessory dwelling units.
Okay. And that would, under the ordinance, if they were to develop, just like any, they were to develop it with an ADU, would that give them the ability to have more occupants than a limit required by the code?
They would not be able to have more than 6 occupants. That does not include the house manager facility, which no, even if they are developing an ADU in the future, they are not able to house more occupants.
Thank you. And then, like the others this morning, is a known existing facility.
This is an existing facility, according to the property owner, the facility has been in operation since September of 2025.
Okay, so less than 35 time.
Less than a year, correct?
And when was the city's ordinance adopted?
I believe it was also September 2025. September 16, 2025.
Thank you. And then let's move on then to the applicant. Before we have the applicant, let's see. I'm gonna take it around. Yeah, the applicant, like to speak on this side. Thank you.
Well, again, everyone, a little bit of clarification, they actually moved in August of 2025, prior to the ordinance pass. Again, you know, this is so a little bit about Nicole. So she also operates a facility in Fountain Valley, and the Fountain Valley. She did the same thing as with this. We were the first applicants in Fountain Valley, just like we were the first applicants here. And the reason we want to be the first applicants is, I mean, we like governance and we like to follow the rules and we like to be part of the solution. And so that's the reason we were the first applicants in Fountain Valley as incentive. So, she was the first facility that was one of the first, during the first hearing, she was passed in Fountain Valley. She's been operating in Fountain Valley for all this time, since they passed their ordinance with the same situation, no calls for service there, no police, no involvement, and she continues to operate under the ordinance in the San Luis City. If I'm not mistaken, I think there was an outreach by some of your staff at Fountain Valley to verify some of this stuff and came back with a good report, if I'm not mistaken. Very similar to what Brian's doing, what Nicole's doing. It's a facility for college age women. Criteria is you have to have completed a treatment center. You have to be working or attending college. There's comprehensive drug screening. Very similar rules as you can see. I mean, a lot of these rules are pretty standard for us. And to speak to some of the questions about if there's a difference in the rules and regulations versus the ordinance, we're happy to make any updates that you guys need for us to make in order to move forward with this. And with that, I mean, I just want to say Nicole in her whole life has also been a model of positive change that inspires people that are in the community. She's pretty prolific in the recovery community here in Southern California. With that, listen, she can speak a lot better for herself than I can for her. So I pass the little on for some brief.
Hello, Nicole Kavanaugh, we've been in the industry for about 13 years. I have 15 years sober. I have a undergrad in criminal justice and criminal seeking and a double master's in entrepreneurship and management through a prestigious university out in the East Coast. The reason I'm seeking these master's degrees is to help me continue down the path that I'm going, managing sober livings and helping other sober livings get value. And with that, understanding that we're not always welcomed in the community, and I completely understand that. Before I got sober, I also judged the environments around me. But I'm a product of treatment myself, and after treatment, I was really discouraged by the lack of sober livings that are in the area, and luckily I had advice that allowed me to continue down the path of recovery. Not become homeless, but people that I did go to facilities with didn't have the same resources I had. We did end up store when I able to sustain recovery, and because of that, you know, after getting a couple years sober, and then I felt like that I should, you know, maybe get something started and help people continue to recovery after treatment. It's been very successful, of course. You can't say I'll be lying if it's 100% proof. you know, but the success rate that we do now is pretty high, I think the industry, higher than usual. And all our residents are required to be enrolled in some form of clinical service after they graduate treatment center, be it therapy, case management. Also required work and or volunteer. I don't want them in the houses all day every day, you know, but some of them have cars, others Uber, no guests are allowed, support also sponsor a family member that is paid only by me and all else. And well, banking actually, so, we don't have anything else other than that to say, but, you know. There's a lot of facilities out there that, you know, struggle to be compliant with the city and state regulations, but we take incredible amount of pride to be one of the ones first in line and all the things that everyone asks of us, and then if anyone in this room wants my phone number, my check phone number, my cell phone, I'm more than happy to give it to you, but they will way too often, but, you know, we just wanna stay coherent and just play well as we can. Very nice. Yeah, folks.
Recording secretary, have we received any written communication or a member of the public that would like to comment on the site?
Executive Director, we did receive emails in the form of public comments for this item before the 8 AM deadline, which has been given to the Executive Director and posted online. If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it in into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Executive Director, we have 2 speakers in-house and 1 on Zoom. I will start off with the in-house speakers. First speaker is Dominic M. and then Lynn M.
Good afternoon. My name is Dominic Messis. I'm here on behalf of the owners and residents associated with property located at 118 West Surrey Avenue, directly within the affected neighborhood area surrounding the proposed project. We respectfully ask the City Council to carefully evaluate the operational impacts this proposed use may have on this established single-family residential neighborhood, and to ensure strict compliance with all requirements of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. This is a R1, R4 single-family residential neighborhood. It was designed to develop a low-density residential. Nearby property owners and tenants are concerned about the cumulative impact that the institutional style occupancy arrangement may have on parking, availability, traffic, neighborhood quiet enjoyment, and overall residential compatibility. Parking on the street is already limited, particularly during evenings and weekends. And a 7-person occupancy arrangement, including residents and a house manager, may substantially increase vehicle concentration on the street. Parking congestion in that area, and it wasn't designed for this intensity of use. We respectfully request that the city require a formal parking management plan and ongoing enforcement if the application is approved. We'd also like to ask the city to clarify whether the staff will be present on site 24 hours per day. What supervision protocols will exist? How complaints from neighbors will be handled? Whether transportation services or third-party program providers will visit the property? And whether any treatment-related services will occur on site. Neighbors are also concerned about the possibility of future expansion or intensification of the use over time. If approved, we respectfully request that the occupancy limits be strictly enforced and that no expansion beyond the approved use be permitted without additional public review. We request that the city establish clear accountability and enforcement mechanisms to ensure the property remains compliant with all municipal standards related to occupancy, noise, parking, nuisance activity, and property maintenance. Nearby residents should have a direct contact person and a documented complaint response process if operational issues arise. The nearby properties, including long-term rental housing occupied by families and working residents who rely on quiet residential conditions and adequate parking availability. Any operational impact associated with use directly affect neighboring tenants.
Thank you, Dominic, for your 2 minutes.
Thanks, Barry.
Linda Ray.
I just want to really support what Dominic just said. Everything that he just said, I agree with him, enforcement. And right now with Curry, it appeared to me, based on what you shared today, I understand he's the property owner of the applicant, right? All those homes are very close in proximity. And I understand the code enforcement, we're talking about 600 feet. But those 4 property and then those vicinity are very, very close. I walk every single night in that neighborhood and it is very, very close. And the one in particular on Curry, is right close to my backyard, it's like 1 street away. And parking is an issue. The expansions, we're not sure what it's gonna be. And I totally I can imagine the your story. And I did with that the very story, all of you. And it is a beautiful success story. And however, if all the rules are enforced, we want to make sure all the rules are enforced, because my concern again is young family. I moved to that neighborhood when my baby was just a year old and he's now 17 years old. So everybody here, I think it's important to the family. We spoke about, the success story, but what about the families within that resident? How about we? I haven't heard anybody say much about that. So my concern again is it's all about family and the young ones, and there's a lot of playing already around outside of the track. And there's other drug use too, other than the sober home in that particular resident. So we want you to, before you make this decision, just really analyze the scope of what's going on in that particular track. Because again, all those 4 residents, it's very, very close to one another. And that's my great concern, and to just please reconsider all factors before you make a decision that will impact the rest of the resident in that sort of track, particularly young, small family. Thank you. Safety is very important for us.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next speaker is on Zoom. Ms. Cainco, we're ready for you.
Thank you. One of the things I heard at the beginning of the meeting, I think, is that you got 14 or 15 letters or emails in the opposition to this. And I'm just hoping that that when you are voting or determining what you're going to decide on, is that yes, there will be 18 clients, 6 per each of those homes, that this will help. But there will be hundreds of neighbors who have moved into this neighborhood with single family homes that will be impacted negatively. And everybody may not be impacted, but look at the impact. 18 people that aren't living in the neighborhood right now. Okay. We'll help them. It will help them. But there probably is another spot that they could put these sober living homes, because our neighbors can't afford to go move and change our location that we moved into when my husband and I 50 years ago. So thank you for that consideration, and I agree with the woman who just spoke to. And again, God bless you all.
Thank you, Jana. Executive Director, we don't have any more speakers.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make any concluding remarks?
Yeah, just want to thank you folks for consideration. And see if you have any additional questions for me, or are there any changes that you're looking for, or anything that you'd like to see differently than what we presented?
Thank you. So similar to the first two, there appears to be a large patio in the rear. It's very close to adjacent properties. And so it's more of a comment first to, and the consideration of any policies that help sort of address, walking odors. Setting off with social attribute that's not smoking. Secondly, one of the speakers brought up a parking management plan, and so I know the ordinance has requirements for parking, and I expect that our code enforcement staff, if this ordinance advances, would implement that and looks it. But does the facility itself have any parking management plan aspects to build on and beyond?
Well, we have parking, we have the amount of parking spaces as required, and the neighborhood is permit parking, if I'm not mistaken, so. We just follow the permit parking regulations as in the other areas.
Thank you. And then one of the comments brought up on-site management, so is there someone that's living at the property 24 hours a day?
That is correct. One of the bedrooms is for a staff member, 24-hour live supervision. And in any case where the house manager is not on site for some reason, there are other staff members that are available.
Thank you. All right, no other questions for you. Thank you for the information you provided. The public testimony of this item is now closed. A few final questions for staff. So, there was reference made to the city officials contacting their counterparts at Silicon Valley. Did that take place? And so, in your own words, what was the outcome of that conversation?
Yes, so staff got in touch with senior planner Matt Jenkins from the city of Fountain Valley. And we inquired about, he was working with Sheehan and the other applicants that for the group home special use permits in Fountain Valley, and we asked how their process went, and a copy of their reports. And Matt Jenkins, the senior planner, noted that they had no issues with the applications set forth by Sheehan and Nicole, that they've been very willing and compliant operators since, and they had no issues.
Thank you. And then, with knowledge that there is another facility in Fountain Valley that is relationship, this proposed application, is this an integral facility?
This is not an integral facility, as mentioned before. This facility has independent living provisions for the occupants on site. It does not require them to go to another location to receive any services. Everything they need for independent living provisions is provided on the site.
And no information online, Facebook listing, nothing would be that indication.
There's nothing that staff could find or verify online that would give that indication.
Thanks. And then lastly, is on-site treatment permissible here?
On-site treatment is not permissible. Or then through home.
Thank you. Alright. I received information during today's hearing. I have no additional questions on this item. The public hearing is not concluded. I'll consider the evidence provided by members of the audience, including the application materials by the applicant before rendering a decision on this on Monday, June 15th. As stated previously, the decision will be mailed to the applicants and posted on the city's planning commission webpage. I would encourage anyone that came out today to connect with staff about any questions that they may have about the ordinance, about any other facilities that we suspect may be operating in the area. Staff are aware of licensed facilities, so that information is readily available on the internet. The unlicensed facilities are ones that are learned of by staff through community input, as well as other sources, and effectively help the city and the city office. So again, our staff will be available to answer any questions. I want to thank everyone for attending and adjourn today's meeting.